Living with Psoriasis by Adam Brown. Introduction. I have had psoriasis knowingly for nearly a decade. Therefore, I have written this book from my experiences throughout this crucial time, about how I have dealt with this condition, gotten better, and come out stronger. Currently, my psoriasis symptoms have visibly cleared. Nevertheless, it does not necessarily mean that this is directly correlated to the methods I have followed. I would also like to highlight the fact that I am not a health professional or a doctor, so I do not share any of my practices as solid advice. As this is a book encompassing my own journey and individual experiences in living with psoriasis, I believe it is important to mention that I have found no scientific evidence supporting the information in my book specifically about diet. Personally, what I do is make decisions and accept the risks that might come from them. My main goal with writing this book is to offer tips and hopefully inspire new ideas or help you open the door to other approaches to healing, such as reviewing your current lifestyle and diet choices. I do not aim to persuade you to do what I have done, but encourage you that there is room for sustainable change and that better days are possible. The condition of your skin now does not have to stay the same for the rest of your life. I am aware of how difficult it is to have psoriasis, but I would like you to know that you are not alone in this path. Many of us have endured this state and turned out to be healthier than we had expected. I hope the information from my life allows you to see that remission is possible. I am thankful to anyone who takes the time to read this book and hopefully can acquire beneficial information that helps you change your condition and your life for the better. Chapter 1. Understanding the risks associated with psoriasis. First, let me go over the health risks associated with psoriasis. This way, you can better understand this condition and make more informed decisions regarding it. There are multiple risks that come with psoriasis, and one of the most dangerous is psoriatic arthritis. It causes the knees and joints to swell, causing pain and everlasting effects. There will be skin symptoms prior to this condition, such as red patches, itchiness, flakiness, and overall irritation, so it is important to be proactive and get tested when you notice slight aches along with these signs. Another risk is having various heart diseases. Yes, psoriasis does not come with problems pertaining to the skin only, which is unfortunate for people like us who have it. Since psoriasis involves inflammation, blood vessels can be damaged to such an extent that the chances of a stroke or heart attack may increase. Therefore, to whomever is experiencing psoriasis, I suggest that you get regular checkups and watch your cholesterol and blood sugar levels in a timely manner. It is better to be safe than sorry. Type 2 diabetes is another risk that comes with psoriasis, as sugar builds up in our bodies, which eventually makes us closer to having diabetes. But according to my experience, this risk may be avoided if we exercise regularly and keep our diet under control. Also, as mentioned earlier, make sure to get your sugar levels checked as a precautionary measure. The next risk associated with psoriasis might not be uncommon to many, and that is depression. This mental condition is not just about feeling sad over your skin or looking perfect. According to some scientists, inflammation can actually cause mental illness. This, however, varies per individual case. Some might experience high levels of depression and down episodes, while others might be able to tackle it a little better. Therefore, we should try our best to improve our condition so that we feel better, not just physically, but also mentally. Chapter 2. Dealing with psoriasis and accepting my condition. I have had psoriasis for nearly a decade as of 2022. Throughout these years, my condition has either worsened or gone into remission quite a few times. Thus, I have been able to notice trends or patterns. Certain habits and choices have had a direct impact on my psoriasis. My skin was clear of symptoms up until my freshman year of college. Incidentally, for personal reasons, I decided to go vegan that same year. I observed that during this vegan path I had chosen, I ate much more soy and wheat products. But going into my second year, I left behind the vegan lifestyle and began to indulge in a variety of foods, such as meat and dairy products. The first time I became aware of my psoriasis was when I was in my second year of college. I was casually sitting beside a friend when she pointed out an area of redness on my right elbow. After looking at it carefully, I noticed that there was a red patch about the size of a $50 coin or a pepperoni slice. I was confused about what caused the redness, as the only change in my life at the time was my new diet regime. There was nothing else going on that I could recall. From there on, I attempted to use medicated lotions and natural oils to treat my inflamed skin topically. After a few weeks, I decided to reach out to a doctor, as it was better to get a professional opinion and a thorough checkup. After my first visit to a doctor regarding my ongoing condition, I was diagnosed with psoriasis. Knowing I had a medical condition that I would have to deal with for a long time was one thing, but what disturbed me the most was that there was no known cure for it. There was only one simple piece of advice, and that was to apply a prescription-grade steroid topical cream to the affected areas. I did notice short-term improvements, but it seemed the psoriasis was becoming resistant. This made me curious about my sudden diet change and how it might have had a role in my diagnosed condition, which I needed to research in depth about. As the years went on, I tried to incorporate various kinds of diets and alter my lifestyle to see if anything would fix this never-ending condition endowed upon me. Some of these diets consisted of low-carb, keto, carnivore, and even vegan options. Being a vegetarian was also part of this journey. I cannot say all these efforts were futile because my condition used to improve noticeably for a short term, although ultimately it would worsen over the years, covering both my elbows, knees, and scalp. There were times of intense itching and flakiness, which would worsen dramatically in the dry months of the winter. I remember that my scalp would itch constantly, and there was not much I could do about it. I would just resort to experimenting with various medicated shampoos that would help manage the symptoms, but the stubborn patches persisted. I grew up in the easternmost state of the U.S., which is Maine. I have always enjoyed living there, but the cold months can be tough. Usually, from the months of October through March, my sunlight exposure would be extremely low, and throughout the winter, my psoriasis symptoms would worsen. Oftentimes, I would find myself embarrassed by my skin condition, but my problem was not knowing what was causing these skin flare-ups. I remember being asked by many people, "What is that on your arms?" or "Is that contagious?" As someone who doesn't like unnecessary attention, this bothered me. To cope, I had to admit to myself that I don't have full control over my skin and body. That lack of control was what pushed me to research and try many different approaches to healing my skin. I think the most important approach that helped me was acceptance. I accepted that this was a part of me, but I also viewed it as a challenge to understand and overcome. I realized that this condition would force me to create awareness about my lifestyle choices. As I mentioned above, my symptoms would worsen significantly during the winter. Fortunately, in the months of summer, as I was exposed to the sunny Maine coast, they would take a turn and improve. Therefore, I was convinced that my symptoms were heavily influenced by my diet and my environment. As winter approached, I would dread the cold and dreary months because the days would become darker sooner and my sunlight exposure would be near non-existent. Having already been on trips to Europe and different states of the U.S., I was fond of traveling, so I planned to choose my next destination as an escape from the cold weather where I resided. In the end, I chose the country of Mexico. The first time I traveled to Mexico was in February 2018, and I remember being extremely excited ever since I booked my trip and counting down the days until I arrived there. Before the trip, I quit smoking and did not consume alcohol. My diet consisted primarily of whole foods, with the elimination of processed supplements. Along with this whole food diet, I worked out lightly 3 to 5 times a week. I noticed that in the following months, there was a slight improvement in my condition, which made me feel good about my health in relation to the trip I was about to take. My skin was instantly met with warmth and plenty of sunshine when I finally reached Mexico. After arriving at the resort, I wore sunscreen and bathed in the sun for about 3 to 4 hours. I felt at peace as I drank whiskey and carbonated soft drinks while basking in the sun by the pool with my family. My biggest and only worry at the time was my almost finished drink and the need to refill it. It was truly a great experience for me from the time I arrived. But that same night, I noticed that my skin had turned bright red, almost pink, though there was no longer flakiness. Upon noticing this, I was concerned that my consumption of alcohol could have compromised my progress. On the second day, my skin remained red but was completely smooth like the rest of my body. My skin cleared up over the next few days. By the 5th day of our stay in Mexico, my skin was completely clear of psoriasis. I felt so happy to see my skin looking the way I had wanted it to for a long time. I maintained a whole food diet with the occasional indulgence of alcohol, but my skin still managed to improve. But once I came back to Maine and its severe cold weather, within 2 weeks my condition went back to square one. It was not horrible, but it was discouraging to see the regression. I continued going to the gym and eating healthy, but I could not produce the same results I had experienced in Mexico. As the months passed and the temperature increased, I was able to get more sunlight. By the summer, I was going to the beach 2 to 3 times a week and spending 1 to 3 hours there with applied sunscreen. I would also wear protective clothing to avoid sun damage. My skin significantly improved, but again, it did not clear the way it did in Mexico. The year progressed, and the dreaded cold months came, and my skin's condition declined again. This stubborn cycle continued as time went on, regardless of my attempts to make my condition better. In the winter of 2020, I was determined to travel to a location closer to the equator to get some much-needed natural sunlight, so I chose the Dominican Republic. After arriving at a resort in the Dominican Republic, I followed sun exposure practices similar to what I did in Mexico. By the 4th day, my skin was clearer. I was amazed and convinced that sunlight exposure was the trick for me to get better. My diet consisted primarily of whole foods leading up to the trip, but during my vacation, I ate various kinds of food. My skin remained clear despite my diet's lack of restrictions. However, upon getting back home to Maine, my condition eventually returned to its inflamed state. I thought of doing something new and decided to give tanning beds a try. Despite the known risks of tanning in light beds, I was determined to clear my skin. I was tanning once a week for 2 to 4 minutes, and within 5 weeks, my skin was almost as clear as it was while on my trips to warmer regions. However, I would like to mention here that I do not recommend or support any kind of tanning other than natural sunlight exposure, which is still what works best for me. I would like to further clarify that even if tanning in light beds worked for me in terms of clearing my skin, I do not encourage people to tan because of the health risks involved. My choices were an attempt out of desperation to heal my skin, so make sure to learn the amount of exposure that suits you if you ever try tanning beds. This could have been coincidental, but in combination with my diet, my skin visibly improved with the routine I had curated for myself. My diet mainly involved whole foods and fasting. I personally like to fast for 6 to 8 hours after waking up. After that, I break the fast with a healthy snack, including eggs or some leftover protein source, fruit, and some veggies. I also love having sliced vegetables and hummus as a snack. Afterward, I typically wait until 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. before eating a proper dinner that fills me. For this meal, I like to hit my caloric maintenance for the day. I usually like to include a good source of protein for the majority of my daily calorie needs, and then healthy sources of fat, such as avocado, olive, and coconut oil. Again, this is not a solid recommendation regarding psoriasis, but just information on what worked for my healing processes. Another useful point to take into account is that I do not always count the calories. I eat until I'm satisfied. Since my diet is primarily preservative-free, my food choices allow me to eat in large quantities. This kind of lifestyle is what works best for me. I also believe that eating a whole food diet with no processed foods is what led to the remission of my visible psoriasis. Living with psoriasis has taught me a lot. It helped me understand my body and how it responds to certain lifestyle changes. It has also made me realize that patience is the key to healing. This journey has taken me years to see some remission, and my situation is a constant work in progress. I'm frequently learning how specific foods and lifestyle choices directly affect my condition and what triggers it. There are numerous factors that can play a major role in healing. One person's journey may not be the same as someone else's, so it is important to be intuitive about how your own body responds. Nevertheless, there are always things you can learn from other people's healing journeys. I have also come to learn that you cannot dwell in the past or keep worrying about the future. It's easy to get caught up in something you dislike about yourself and go on depreciating your self-worth. But personally, having psoriasis has helped me learn more about myself and value myself more. I would remind myself daily to appreciate everything I have in my life, especially having the ability to create change, regardless of the way my skin looks. This journey has allowed me to get to know myself better, not just biologically and physically, but spiritually as well. Psoriasis does not have to keep you from truly living. For me, having that understanding is the power to heal and live life on your own terms. Remind yourself that getting better may take a lot of time and effort, but great results are achievable with consistency and dedication. Chapter 3. My opinion and tips on other treatments. Biologicals. You have probably heard of using biologicals, medications derived from natural sources to treat psoriasis. I have always been skeptical of their use, especially since they're not always readily available and can be highly expensive. Also, discontinuing their use can lead to a rebound and an overall worsening of the condition. I've heard cases and also personally know some individuals who have seen improvement through biological treatments, but I've also heard the opposite. So if you accept the risks associated with such remedies, then it is your decision to go on with them. I think biologics can be a great backup plan if you are unable to find a solution naturally, based on what my friends have experienced and what I've found through networking via the internet. Food. Everyone with psoriasis has their own dietary needs and restrictions. Nevertheless, below are some tips I've learned in my personal journey with the condition. Foods to consume. Leafy green vegetables, fruits, nuts, seeds, legumes, gluten-free oatmeal, rice, coconut dairy substitutes, healthy fat sources, olive, coconut, avocado oils, green fruit juices with cucumber, celery, apple, avocado, spinach, kale. Foods to avoid. Nightshades, potato, eggplant, tomato, jalapeno. Processed sugar, gluten, soy, any processed food, alcohol. On low-carb diets. Consuming a low-carb diet results in lowered blood sugar and insulin levels in the body, which ultimately affects psoriasis symptoms in a positive way. This is known to reduce weight rapidly, thus helping mitigate inflammation. Research has also proven that it decreases the severity of psoriasis. But a low-carb diet not only helps in limiting psoriasis, it can also keep your overall well-being in balance, which is crucial so that a condition as severe and unpredictable as psoriasis is not affected by further health issues. This kind of diet also helps with boosting your brain and sharpening your memory, which are extremely important for someone with psoriasis because you must keep your medicines and diet in check all the time. Forgetfulness may lead to mistakes, such as eating staples that inflame the skin, and this can have harmful effects. On smoking and alcohol consumption. Smoking in any form and alcohol consumption are two major triggers of psoriasis. Even if everything else is on track, these two factors can compromise healing and prevent remission. Needless to say, limiting these factors can lead to successful treatments. My personal regime. As mentioned earlier, everyone is different and has different healing methods that will suit them. If one thing works for someone, it does not mean it would also work for other people in the same way. But in case you would like to know, I'm sharing what my regime looks like. Avoid dairy, gluten, and processed sugar. Try to eat lots of vegetables. Have fruit, sweet potatoes, and rice as main sources of carbs. Eat red meat, chicken, and salmon. Consume healthy oils like avocado and olive oil. Limit consumption of nightshade veggies, but you can eat them occasionally. Try to have a 30-minute walk daily before or after work. Tan for 10 to 12 minutes once a week. Do at your own risk. For sunlight exposure, walk with my dog daily. Have occasional trips to the beach. Find reasons to intentionally get at least 15 to 20 minutes of sun exposure per day, year-round. My sample daily diet plan. Start the morning with water, then a cup of black coffee or green tea. Eat an apple or banana. Eat cooked salmon and ribeye steak. Add a sweet potato or extra veggies to be satiated. Drink plenty of water. Fast until 4 p.m. Having shared all the tips above, I'd also like to say that life happens, so enjoy the little things and allow yourself to live. It is important to have cheat days where you eat what you enjoy, but always remember to get back on track. Be instinctive about your body's needs and maintain a healthy lifestyle if you are committed to healing. Frequently asked questions. 1. Do psoriasis symptoms come and go or stay for a definite time? Based on my personal experience, they come and go, but each case is unique, so there is no singular answer for this. 2. Do the patches leave permanent marks or do they disappear over time? In my experience, I had moments of 100% clear skin. 3. What are the most common causes of psoriasis flare-ups? As I have mentioned in my book time and time again, each case is different, but from my experience, poor diet, stress, smoking, and alcohol consumption have had a heavy influence on my condition. 4. Is psoriasis genetic? My grandfather on my mother's side is the only person in our family to knowingly have had it aside from me. I believe there are strong genetic correlations, but there are also lifestyle and environmental influences such as diet, smoking, drinking, stress, and weather. 5. Is psoriasis contagious? No, it is certainly not contagious. Conclusion. Now that we have reached the end of this book, I hope to have achieved my main aim, which is to give you, readers who are on this path with me, some guidance on dealing with psoriasis and a ray of hope that it does get better when we decide to work for it. While we all have our own struggles with psoriasis and we cannot decide what specific method works for everyone, I hope that from my personal experience in living with this condition, you were able to pick up something advantageous to ease your pain, especially if you're feeling lost and hopeless. Our skin and the overwhelming feelings that come with psoriasis are not here to stay. With a balanced diet, precautions, and a positive attitude, we can deal with it in a lighter manner and hopefully improve our condition. This book is dedicated to all of you who are dedicated to recovering. I wish you all the best.